creatures being shown off on the water today, a spectacle for those watching from back on land.
Today's a real bonus.
Watching the boat races, just to watch the boats out here racing today and just enjoy the beautiful weather.
We've come down to see my brother-in-law's on one of the boats on the Classic Launch race.
As well as tugboats and yachts, there was the annual show of strength.
This is the greatest number of people out for the Waka Armour event this year, with 5 6-person Waka and an 8-person out on the water.
A day of competition and history, with Auckland celebrating its anniversary by living up to its name. Alice Wilkins, Prime News.
Stay with us, still to come on Prime News. Police hunt for the driver who hit a single mum on a Lower Hutt pedestrian crossing and left her with multiple fractures. And the 100-year-old fundraising hero who shot to fame during lockdown has contracted COVID.
Next on Prime, A-League highlights. 6:30, Shipping Wars. At 7, CGW. Then, the American pickers find the treasure among the trash. And later, Stallone leads a lethal group of mercenaries, the Expendables.
Yep.
With 2 Degrees monthly prepaid plans, you pay monthly, 12 times a year. The other guys charge every 28 days for their most common prepaid plans.
And if it's actually too loud.
So here's a reminder. 30 days has September.
Well, the only thing is that, they're playing the game.
Yeah, so it makes it too, yep, exactly.
Another month. Unfair, you wearing? Fighting fair since 2009.
I started charging because I love the Korea rain.
And then on top of that, they shout like they've got to be heard across Cook Strait.
Well, the best quality for Kiwis. Charlie.
Or from Lower Hutt.
From big cities
So
to
how's
small
your day?
towns, the far north and the deep
good.
south, there's a local white girl on the ski.
I saw something really interesting. This morning when I was walking to work, about 10 because I go this young woman, because I want to call all people because they're 25 girls. I should just do it, wind them up.
It can be, the consequences can be painful.
Yeah, but I like to live dangerously occasionally. So yeah, I was walking down Willow Street, and just as I got to that, intersection with Mercer, there was a girl with a trolley from Newell, absolutely, and it was one of the big trolleys, absolutely stacked full of those, those pre-wrapped triple cans of spaghetti and baked beans.
Oh.
It was absolutely stacked full, and she was just about to cross the road to go towards Victoria Street. And I wonder who on earth would be buying up that many?
No joke.
Unless it was a night and day wanting to restock or something. But it was a European girl, so I thought, and then I thought, well, maybe it was off to, what are the different groups? There's Pavlos, and there's another one, isn't there?
You mean charities?
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Well, there's Kibosh, what's it? Oh, the Free Store, Kibosh.
Yeah, but it was actually, large cans of baked beans. You know how they wrap up triple cans?
I'm
You
not
can
sure
buy-
I've actually seen it myself, but
You can buy the 3 packs.
Pedestrian crossing in Taita on Saturday morning, seconds before she's hit by a car. The
Really?
impact is too graphic to show. A grey
yeah.
car
Why
is seen
not?
driving away. It doesn't stop or even slow down.
Don't do that to someone.
down her almost 20 metres down the road.
Oh no,
Barty
that's
Patel arrived at the
unbelievable.
scene shortly after the crash.
Yeah, her head was apparently blown up like a balloon because of the impact, and it broke their windscreen.
Is she alive?
She
She is.
camera, but said that Anna was
Well,
having
at the
seizures
moment
on the
she
ground
is.
and had a bloody cut down her head. She was taken to Wellington Hospital with serious injuries.
She
And the
had
car
fractures
just
to her
keeps on
face
going.
and a gash
Yeah,
on her
it's
head that had been
unbelievable,
stapled.
eh?
She had a fractured sternum and a fractured fibula and tibia. I'm shocked and I'm disturbed by it.
Wilton says it could be months before the single mother of 2 boys walks again.
She won't be able to do as much physical activity with her boys. It'll change the way that she interacts with them.
Police are hunting for a grey Mitsubishi Diamante, which they believe was involved. It may be missing a left front fog light, and its windscreen could be broken. Lower
I think if we're going to have CCTV, why don't we have quality CCTV?
Yeah.
So often,
They need it on the traffic, eh?
if everything that human beings do is, oh, she'll be right, mate, we'll do a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
how on earth does that stand up in court?
Taken to Christchurch
No one will
Surely-
get charged.
Surely they
following a
would,
fire
yeah,
in
they
a
need,
suburb of
they need
Parkland.
CCTV
Firefighters
footage that
reported the
actually
blaze at a
points
two-storey
down the
flat
road
on
so you
Curzon
can actually
Place
see a number
around
plate.
6 this morning.
And there would be a lot of witnesses, all of them would have cameras on their phones, but would they ever think to take their phones out and take pictures of us? How fast? It wasn't going that fast.
Well, no, it must have been. To throw her 20 metres was probably doing over the speed limit.
Metro stations and blocking off the city centre.
Where was that?
The more contagious variant of COVID-19, first detected
Oh,
in
that's
Britain,
disgusting.
has now spread to 50 countries across
Yeah.
the globe. But while the UK government is racing
I-
ahead with record numbers of
My
vaccinations,
thinking was perchance is it somebody that doesn't like her, and she was singled out.
Well, that's the other, that could have been it too, but then if it's someone she would know, then they'd be able to quickly isolate the car and the number plate and ownership. But they'll be able to narrow it down because of vehicle registrations.
As far as I'm aware, they don't have it, do they?
Well, no, they know the make of the car, so they'll be able to narrow it and the colour, so they'll be able to search through their land transport database
new virus variant.
and come up
And yet
with
most
a
of
list
the
of
countries on the
cars.
continent haven't got a single dose of vaccine. The fact is,
But they'll be
95%
quickly
of
trying
vaccines
to
in the world
find
to the 10 richest countries. For life to return to normal,
likely
the World Health
drivers.
Organization says
And another thing that's a little bit perturbing is this merely the first victim? Is there somebody that likes doing this?
in Brazil, soccer fans ignoring social distancing rules crowded into the streets to celebrate their team.
I reckon it was somebody on their bloody phone.
Similarly, in Israel, thousands of Orthodox Jews
And when
turned
they
out
realised
for the
they
funeral
hit,
of a
and when they
revered
hit
rabbi.
them, they thought, shit, I'm not
Both
stopping.
Brazil and Israel have stubbornly high COVID rates. But the worst outbreak right now is in Portugal, with the highest number of infections and also
Which
of
means they
deaths
can also
per capita
locate it.
in the world.
They should be also be able to locate it because they should be able to
British war veteran who
find
became a household
person,
name during
people by
lockdown,
their car
has been hospitalised
and then
with
go to
COVID-19.
the service
100-year-old
providers and
fundraising
find
hero
out
was admitted after acquiring
people who
help
were
with
on
his
their
profile.
phone.
Sir Tom shot to fame
and
last year by
from
walking 100 lengths of his
a
garden
search of
to
cell
raise
towers
millions of
know if they
pounds
were
for the
in the
UK's
area.
health service.
You know, I wonder, it's plausible that that driver may not have even known what happened.
Still to come on Prime News, your weather for
Miss
tomorrow.
hitting someone
And
front
Zoe
on.
Simmons
Wasn't
rounds out
those she
the
glanced them,
X
it
Games
was
with another medal.
she ran, she hit them.
That's just so, I mean, you slow down when there's anyone with a brain slows down at a zebra crossing.
And the impact, plus the impact of actually hitting someone and knocking them 20 metres, that's a
20 metres. Oh.
That's like from here to
$1 kg, $3.80 each. While stocks last,
halfway down the dining room.
Smashed windscreen.
I'd like that to
Because
have.
from here to that wall is about 10 metres, so twice that distance.
I'd like the driver to experience what it's like.
Exactly.
The new Samsung Galaxy S21 series.
There's a lot to be said for creating justice.
Which
Eye
means it
for
has
an eye,
eyes
right.
in the back of its ears.
We've calculated to, in order to not go 20 metres, you must be travelling at this speed. You stand here, and her partner is going to drive your car at you and not you 20 metres down the road.
I would just, there can't be any mitigating circumstances or anything. There's no excuse.
And the choice should be, you either get hit by a car doing the same speed, or you stand here and you'll take a sledgehammer. Tibia and tibia. Yeah, because it would have hit her in the lower leg, you see, that's why it's here. And then buckled her over the bonnet, so that's where
And she turned into the flying nun.
so her sternum hit the bonnet, and that got broken. And then they're saying her windscreen is probably broken because when she landed on the bonnet, her head would have connected with the windscreen.
I hope they get caught quickly.
Well, they'll have to because there'll be too much damage to the car, eh? His bonnet's damaged, his windscreen's broken, he's got to go and get a new windscreen. You can't put a new windscreen in yourself, you've got to actually get it done for you. So all the glass repair places will be on alert for Mitsubishi Diamante that comes in saying he wants to replace the windscreen. The insurance companies will be on alert for a car that's claiming damage to the body.
Hello. Kambawa.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to... Oh, shut up. It's nearly 6 o'clock. Damn.
They haven't had the best story yet, because the best story is up at the Coromandel, some guy between Trombo and rammed another boat with its inflatable dinghy.
And
sunk his own boat.
Oh, I was thinking who came off second best.
Yeah. The guy in the inflatable. Because he punctured his the little buoyancy thing that sank.
Great score of a 44 on the biggest stage she's likely to compete on in 2021. Zoe Sadowski's Synod produced the goods for a second straight day. Backside 1080. Yeah, that's a big one, man. And she's got a bronze medal position. Puts her into bronze medal position. Whoa.
I'm super stoked with how I rode and with the result.
Oh,
That's because she was
damn.
able to land both the backside and frontside 1080 for a combined score of 86. There's that front,
Wow.
and now she started both tricks in the
Oh.
bag, allowing her to go for glory on her fifth and final run. Backside 12 attempt there.
That's my first crack at it, so yeah, I don't know if it's
And it's a woman.
as a
Wow.
confidence today, but yeah, for sure, sometime in the future.
But exactly what the future looks like is unknown. The 19-year-old has hopes of defending her 2019 slopestyle world title next month, but that remains in doubt after Canada pulled out of hosting the champs.
We're not entirely sure when it's going to happen or where, but we're still making sure that we're ready.
Meanwhile, freestyle skier Nico
Wow.
Fortius, who won gold in yesterday's Superpipe, is resigned to the fact that's it for the year.
There's potential that this comp last night will be the only time I compete in 2021.
The X Games confirming our pedigree of winter athletes. Whether they get more chances to display it again this year, still very much up in the air. Gordon Findlater, Prime News.
So they'll be making
Wellington
big money in
Phoenix coach
sponsorship.
Ufuk Talay is lauding the impact of his substitutions in their 2-1 win over the Central Coast Mariners. Captain Millicent de Villiers opened the scoring for the Knicks before the Mariners equalised just before the break.
I was going to go up to the free store. I didn't realise it was so. I only thought it was about 5:30.
No, well, isn't it 6 o'clock? Oh, it's close to 6 o'clock.
Yeah, you want your substitutes
Yeah, it
to
is.
come on and make an impact, and him coming on and scoring the winner was very effective for us.
Oh, poo.
Importantly,
I
2 points.
The result
bought
snaps the winless
a
run
Katsu
to
Don birdie,
lifts them off the bottom of the table.
so I had something to eat. But I often get worried about, I like snacking, and I often get hungry later. I've got lots of food. Well, free store stuff. There are still those eggs, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I looked, I don't have another container, but I'll have used up my eggs, so you can keep my container and put them in your fridge. Yeah, because there's 6 in the egg. Did you use the other 4?
Yes. I wonder whether I don't really need to go up. I mean, it's only Monday. I think Monday's not a very good day, actually. Lots of people and not much food.
Yeah, it's usually Tuesday, isn't it, when they have...
I think,
Because
yeah.
everything's fresh on a Monday, so they're not putting stuff out.
It's fine with light winds in the north, a nice southerly breeze. Auckland reaching 26
Oh,
degrees
that's
tomorrow.
what I was going to say.
Crystal clear
You
and
said
very
there
plenty,
was
but Gisborne is mostly cloudy and there could be a morning shower.
Was it a mission or
It's
something
blue
that
skies
gives out
again
food
across the
passes?
central north with
Ah.
a southeasterly wind. 24 for you.
Well, there's Kibosh.
Capital gets
Yeah.
another absolutely
Yeah, but I was just
amazing
wondering
day.
where
It's sunny
those
and quite
Things
still.
are going.
baked beans might have been going. Would they be going?
Any
Was
morning
there
cloud on the west
Well,
coast.
it's possible it could be the free store. People donate to the free store, and I assume that the mission statement is not wasting food, but it's also feeding those who need food.
I
So
was looking at that trolley. She would have had a bloody hard job pushing that up Miller Street to the
yeah,
There'd be a danger it would suddenly freewheel back or run her over.
I wonder if I'm going to do this
Absolutely
again.
stacked full.
How do you feel about putting the news on?
What?
How do you feel about putting the news on? Is it okay?
Oh yeah. What channel do you want? Yep.
And later, Stallone leads a lethal group of mercenaries, the Expendables.
Oh glory.
Early morning rain and soldiers.
I don't like that woman.
Oh, and Sang Suu Kyi.
Yeah.
No, she's
Captain Sir
pretty
Tom
much.
Moore, now battling the very virus he raised millions to fight. What his daughters revealed about his life.
Yeah, destroyed her, whatever, humanitarian image. I think she's basically
Good evening. Kiwis in Perth are
for,
hoping the Australian city's first lockdown won't harm hopes of a trans-Tasman bubble in the next couple of months. And while one expert on the other side said it just
for
confident that
Burmese,
the bubble
but
would
not
still
for
happen in the
the
first
other
quarter of this
ethnic
year,
groups
our Prime
that
Minister's
are-
warning there's still some big steps to take.
So many.
Chicken open,
Beg
but
pardon?
there were very few Kiwis
Oh, yeah.
wanting to fly today.
well, there's a whole lot
After
of other
flight
ethnic groups
cancellations last week,
besides
this
religion.
basketballer arriving early for her trip to Sydney.
That's long hair.
Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We could get told it might be delayed again, or new travel restrictions. I got my COVID test just to make sure.
While Australia has reopened its border to New Zealand, Perth
I wonder
is
how
now
many
in
she's
lockdown for
had.
the first time
Yeah.
after a community outbreak. Long queues to get a COVID test.
I've had
quickly
none
filled
so
in.
far.
The 5-day stay-at-home order is a shock for this Kiwi.
No.
Like there really
You look
wasn't
pretty
COVID.
infected to me.
Yeah, you've
People
probably had
were
it 3 or 4
carrying on
times
as
by now.
normal. There was no
Have you been
social
falling
Well,
off?
it's possible.
physical distancing
anybody walking forward?
anymore here.
What?
We've never had
Has
one.
anything fallen
Now
off?
we've all got to have masks.
No.
But today's the first day
The hardest part of the last year was not coming home to see family.
We've got used to the feeling of having the border closed. Every time that there is a new infection or there is a lockdown, you just wonder how long this is going to go for.
But a member of the Trans-Tasman South Board Group is optimistic the outbreak won't impact that elusive bubble.
There's more trust developing about each other's contact tracing systems and so on, and that's probably one of the precursors.
We know that one of the things we have to be prepared for in the event of a Trans-Tasman bubble is that there could be
What would he
small
know?
outbreaks on either side.
He's
of the
only
Tasman.
about 12, isn't he?
We need to have agreed protocol.
That bubble would
12,
go for economic
13.
and emotional reasons.
Really, we've got a lot of people who are really struggling with this connection between family.
In December, Jacinda Ardern said the bubble could occur as early as the first quarter of this year. So, what are the sticking points?
He's a useless
The system's
man.
mapped out to make it as safe as we possibly can. Agreement both sides as well on what's happening with vaccination. What are our processes if we get an outbreak somewhere?
A big list to tick off to make that time.
How come she isn't doing the job?
Katie
I
Bradford,
think she
One
got a
News.
step up
Alright,
to
Katie, some
something
positive
else.
signs across the ditch that the Trans-Tasman bubble is
Oh.
still on the cards.
She went to
How much
one
does
of the
our
harder
government share that
things
enthusiasm,
to
though?
manage.
Kia ora,
Didn't
good
she get
evening. Yes,
housing?
you could hear the optimism
I
in the
don't
voice.
really
And
actually
Australia
know.
hope that that could happen in the next 2 months. Our government, though, not so optimistic. They say they're still working through a number of things to get there. And it really is the fact that, as we've seen with this recent outbreak, we just don't know what to do, what could happen if we did have a big outbreak on either side of the Tasman. That could throw everything into chaos, Kiwis stuck in
We'd have
Australia and
to-
so forth. So they really
Especially
need
if
to
it's
work
the
through
South
that
African
process of
variant.
just what they would do if that was to happen. Now, the vaccine obviously seen as a game changer.
Has
both
South
Australia
Africa
and
been
here,
hit
and
hard?
Staff, key border staff
Yeah,
were vaccinated.
and
That would provide
it's looking
some
like the
reassurance,
South
but
African variant
we're not even at the
is,
stage yet where there are proposals ready to go to
resistant
cabinet,
to
to
the
either
vaccines.
governments to sign off. So I think we're already 1 month into the year already, a couple of months to go on that first quarter deadline. I think it's a big ask to work through all those things in that short amount of time.
Indeed, and an update today on the Pullman Hotel outbreak just over a week ago.
Yes, well, obviously that source of those community cases we saw last week, Ashley Bloomfield saying today that almost everyone involved in terms of people who worked at the Pullman and so forth have tested negative. They've found almost everyone. Confident that that is not going to spread. It seems to be now the source of that infection was airborne. They haven't quite identified it yet and they're still looking into that. In the meantime, the Pullman Hotel will be gradually emptied of people over the next couple of weeks and then have its CCTV upgraded and further investigations. The government, though, reassuring people that there are enough MIQ spots, there are contingencies in place should a facility need to be closed down like that. Those spots obviously very precious for people coming in from overseas.
Certainly are. Now I'm here in Auckland, Katie Bradford. Right, let's head over now to Perth, where two Channel 9's Cayman Gock. And Cayman, Western Australia's first COVID lockdown was put in place very quickly. Were people prepared?
I think largely so. The queue here goes for hundreds of metres up the road and wraps around, everyone doing their bit to be tested. Everyone you can see is wearing masks. This is the first time we've ever had to wear masks mandatory in WA. But on the other side, people started doing those dreaded panic buyings yesterday, which we saw in the shops, and the Premier only moments ago expressed his dismay for that. He said there's no need and there's enough stock to go around for everyone. So while everyone's doing their bit going out to get tested, it's actually been overwhelming some of our COVID clinics. The waits have been up to 6 hours.
Anyone
just to get
fighting
tested.
over
Some people
toilet
have been
paper?
turned away if they're asymptomatic or haven't been to one of those hotspots or been in close contact with the suspected cases. They've been sent away just so these clinics can cope with the number of people.
I felt I had to throw my masks out because it was in a bag with mouldy stuff, and I thought it would be dumb to put mould over my face.
And those masks are only supposed
so
to
that
be
they can
used
be prepared for the rest of the week as we continue.
I could have possibly washed them. Would that have ruined the whole idea?
People were tested, and there are now 66
Yeah.
close contacts which have all been tested and are in quarantine.
They'll just disintegrate, make a mess.
Channel 9, thank you very much. The government's refusing to say whether our first COVID vaccines will arrive on schedule, conceding today the Pfizer order is subject to change. And with global demand for vaccines soaring, some experts say it's now time to explore whether we should make our own. Nicole Bremner reports.
Is New Zealand's expertise on the farm another weapon in the fight against COVID? Some of our top health and biotech experts think so.
We're world leaders in vaccine manufacture for farm animals in particular. And that's against viruses, against parasites, and against bacteria.
And its knowledge easily applied to the manufacture of human vaccines, like those in hot demand for COVID-19.
It's very feasible. We have very good biological capability in New Zealand. We have good science capability, and we've got the manufacturing capability as well.
It's on the government's radar, a potential long-term project requiring careful consideration and substantial investment.
What, making our own vaccine?
At this point, it is something that we are looking at as to whether we should be developing the capacity to do that in the future in New Zealand. It's been talked about for many years. It's probably been on the back burner. But I think the present situation really brings that to the fore, that we may need to think about how we secure our vaccine supply going forward.
The government now appearing less certain about when the first Pfizer vaccines
Everyone
will
should
arrive.
be vaccinated except Jacinda.
Pfizer in particular, those conversations happen on an almost daily basis.
Recent export controls by the EU, manufacture and supply issues adding to the uncertainty.
It is subject to change, and I'm not going to say that we're expecting vaccines to arrive in X quantity on
I
X
actually
date.
think the Pfizer one
It's
and the
absolutely certain that
Moderna
that's
and
when they're going to
AstraZeneca
arrive.
ones
But the
are
handling of
overhyped.
future pandemics is increasingly on the minds of our biotech experts.
What happens next time if it's a virus that is more infective, more deadly, and the crisis is harder and faster?
A case to consider solutions in our own backyard. Nicole Bremner, One News.
We need to start trusting and respecting one another if we're to be a high-performing opposition. That was Judith Collins' message to her troops at National Summer Retreat today, as the party looks to rebuild after last year's crushing election defeat. Here's political reporter Benedict Collins.
She's still holding the reins.
Good practice with Nationals goal for 2021.
Wasn't that the guy
Learning
that
to play nicely.
went,
Enjoy
do you
each
know
other's
who I
company
am?
And to learn to trust and respect
Oh, he left
each
politics,
other
didn't he?
for everything that we do.
Do you remember that guy, I think it was down in Queenstown? He was a bit drunk and goes, do you know who I am? I think he wanted more alcohol and he was obviously drunk.
There are a couple of them who are right bonkers.
Do you know who I am?
Well, the answer to that is yes.
Great day to be out here though. Windless, wonderful conditions out here on the pitch. A serious part of
Wow, it would have been a good. I wonder if they let anybody in.
That I think Judith thinks was lacking at times, last year. How do you think you guys do
Photo
stuff like this?
op.
Oh, it's been really constructive, really positive morning so far. I've dealt with a lot of executive teams and building great teams, and this is just the work that good teams and good organisations should be doing.
Paul Goldsmith may be working from a different rulebook.
You saw you kick that ball away, mate, and steal the run.
It's competitive.
But the public agrees. National needs a fresh start.
It's a new year, so we're going to chuck all the rubbish up from last year.
They need to get their act together and trust each other.
She's actually admitted, that there was no love or respect or trust.
National also confirming today it will contest the Māori seats.
I think it's very important that the National Party reflects better the population of New Zealand and the communities that we represent.
And the task ahead to
Oh,
convince the
go,
community
Judith.
they're a cohesive
Love you,
team.
Judith.
Benedict Collins, One News.
A new approach to dealing with young offenders is helping many stay out of trouble and out of court. The Young Adult List for 18 to 25-year-olds has been trialled at Porirua District Court. As Kushna Norman reports, police are already hailing the pilot program a success.
Ray Boland's an engineer in training, but getting caught drunk driving last year reminded the 19-year-old he's got a lot to lose.
I was sober driving some friends at first, and then ended up having a couple myself.
He ended up here, Porirua District Court, on the Young Adults List. It's for 18 to 25-year-olds. experts on hand to help with everything from alcohol to anger management.
Dealing with the underlying cause of the offending is critical.
The court also offers greater support to people with neurodisabilities.
A high percentage of people coming into all our courts have an acquired brain injury. The district court is as high as 40%. And that affects people's behaviour, it also affects their ability to understand and participate in court.
About 35 cases have been heard here over the day, and what was really interesting to see was the way the lawyers and judge communicated with the defendants. Jargon and legalese gone, instead plain English, very much encouraged.
The participant needs to have a voice. To have a voice, they need to be able to understand what's going on.
A guilty plea is not needed to access help from the court.
It's not about a penalty, it's about actually improving their life.
But she rejects any suggestion it's soft on crime.
We're asking often to have the sentence plus a little bit more, but that plus a little bit more is what's getting them in a better position in their life. We have in this court far less warrants issued, and we have far less matters going to a defendant hearing.
Ray Boland got a fine, community work and lost his licence. But he also did a driving course and got help getting his full licence for when he's legal again.
Punishing you and learning a lesson but not making you feel like you're a criminal.
It's still in a trial phase, but it's hoped this way of handling young offenders becomes the norm. Kushla Norman, One News.
The law's going to be changed to make the establishment of Māori wards on councils easier. The government's dumping a provision that allows for referendums which can overturn dedicated Māori representation. Logan Church explains.
A long time coming.
Over the last few years, councils have tried to establish Māori wards. However, a citizen-initiated poll has been able to overturn those resolutions.
Māori wards operate in a similar way to Māori seats in Parliament and are proportionate to the population. This is alongside general wards, and councils can vote to establish them. But under current law, a petition with signatures from 5% of the population can force a binding referendum.
This legislation is purely racist in nature and it has no place in the rules of New Zealand.
Only 3 councils have Māori wards. 24 councils have attempted to establish them. Attempts which have sometimes ended in bitter disputes. Like in Tauranga, where a petition's gained enough support in recent days to force a referendum. Now the government's promised transitional changes, meaning decisions by 9 councils, including Tauranga, to establish Māori wards for the 2022 elections will stand. Some saying today's announcement wasn't necessary.
I'm utterly appalled, quite frankly. The Minister seems to want to ignore the wishes of a great many New Zealanders. We're happy to vote for people if they're good, irrespective of race, and that's the way it should be.
Well, it takes that racism out of that, that legislation, because it was only aimed at Māori. It wasn't aimed at any other ward or any other constituent. To be honest with you, I don't know who even developed that. It was really crazy.
The government will also put a permanent process in place for councils to follow when considering creating new wards in the future. Logan Church, One News.
Bill Hammond, one of New Zealand's most influential contemporary artists, has died. The Christchurch painter passed away on Saturday night at the age of 73. He studied at the University of Canterbury in the 60s and rose to prominence in the 80s with works that tackled social and environmental issues. Bill Hammond's work included themes of environments under threat and the vulnerability of life in a precarious world. The Whaiapinea military coup is underway in Myanmar tonight. Leader Aung San Suu Kyi and others have been detained in a raid.
Oh, the heavy coup.
I have no more sympathy for her. I think she just, I think it's another case of my idea of democracy and her idea of democracy is different. I think she's self-serving. It'll be, democracy is what is good for her and her family, period. Very much, she's a Donald Trump.
Plus, if you're struggling with school lunchbox ideas, we're here to help.
And supposedly a lot of people were trying to get her out of home detention and everything, and because she was democratic, hoping that there'd be democracy in Burma. Famous people like Bono, Bishop Tutu, and those people. And I wonder if they've retracted after everything that's been going on. What?
not have any
No, it's
feed or
Bishop
something like that?
Tutu.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Check out Foreign by Border
See you later.
Hi there.
I know we got
Yeah,
uh,
the road
because
records and receipts
after
about
she
200.
became
Can you match that?
member of
Sorry,
parliament,
our
she
services
just
start
started
from 179.
to say, oh
There's
no,
also
the military are really being really nice.
Auto Centre. It's easy to see our great prices.
This is
Oh,
the job for me.
I'm not sure this is the job for me.
The pay's good. And the hours are flexible. And
Mind you, I have heard that
it's in a quick
supposedly
wonderful series.
the Rohingyans want to go independent, and they've got a group of terrorists, and that they attacked 27 police stations, and I think killed a lot of people. And so you can kind of understand why the Burmese would go in, but you're supposed to go by the book. You're not really supposed to burn people's homes down and murder people.
They could pay it off a little easier. Search NZ Home Loans.
It's unfortunate that even the Rohingyans go, I will go to Bangladesh because they're Muslim, but the Bangladeshis don't want them. I remember seeing a report, I think was BBC, it might have been Al Jazeera, but the Bangladeshis are going, we don't want them here, we don't want to have to look after them. They do drugs and they're not nice people. It's difficult.
What is my purpose?
Paperwork. This needs to go onto that.
Why not use zero
But the
captures your
Rohingyans
bill
were
and receipt and spills
actually
off automatically?
Good robot.
Try
Or
zero
make
fee
them
for
live.
30 days.
They just settled it, they had just,
With more than 20% protein from muscle
they were
development,
part of that
Nutrigrain is one of the highest protein cereals.
ethnic community that was settled in Burma.
At the Cooperative
Which is
Bank,
one
we
of the
offer
reasons
personal
why-
loans that put you in charge. Borrow $10,000 or more, and for a limited time, get a special rate of 9.95% interest per annum. Apply now at thecooperativebank.co.nz.
So it's one of those nasty situations happening in Burma. The Rohingyans who say they were trying to protect
Free polarized lenses in your second pair when you
Yeah,
choose from the two
people
pairs for $299 range or above. Save $150. Offer ends February 3.
Get into the run-out price on Mitsubishi
All the
Outlander.
Burmese who said, oh no,
Save brunt in here to carry 6 big kids in here. All the good stuff's in, and on, and there, all around, and under. Big warranty in.
But it seemed
Big
like
things
the
in. Warranty in,
Burmese
but not for long.
were
At
trying
just
to do it with
$31,990
ethnic
plus on
cleansing.
roads, get into Outlander
Saying
before it runs
Burma,
out.
the Burmese and we're in a minority group,
Time to meet your new batch.
Well, that does seem to be one of the things that happens. Humanity seems to be very quick to do ethnic cleansing in some shape or form.
ultra-nationalistic behaviour is becoming more prevalent, isn't it?
Yeah, it does seem to be.
Talking Myanmar's military has taken over the country in a situation still unfolding tonight. The country's democratic leaders have been arrested in an early morning raid, and communication in the capital is cut off. It
I
follows
don't
weeks of
really
tension
care.
in the country that neighbours
Boo-hoo.
Bangladesh, with the army claiming the election was rigged. Kate Nicol-Williams has the latest.
All quiet on the streets of Myanmar's biggest city, the country's military back in charge. It's reported Myanmar's elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and other government politicians were arrested in the early hours. Internet and phone lines were cut, the state media posting it was unable to broadcast.
And I think the reason it happened today is because Parliament was about to sit and all the MPs will be in Naypyidaw, all staying in a guest house, or the vast majority of them staying in one particular guest house, and they can be rounded up very easily.
Fears of a coup were raised after this pro-military protest on the weekend, the army claiming fraud in November's election.
I want to urge our military chief to take strong action on election fraud. The need to take severe action is clear.
The Electoral Commission's rejected claims of voter fraud, but the military's now announced its Commander-in-Chief will rule over a year-long state of emergency. And the last time the army took charge here, it held power for 23 years.
The Myanmar military have plenty of experience of withstanding international sanctions.
Because I swear that
The action has been condemned internationally.
once you get
The
into
United
power,
States calling on the military to
if you
reverse
can
course.
stay there,
Our
why
government
would you
says
want
it's
to
deeply
leave?
troubled.
We're really concerned about the events in Myanmar, and it's really important to ensure that the release of the leader does happen.
A country with deep divisions now facing an uncertain future. Kate Nicol-Williams, One News.
I wonder where they
Chaotic scenes in Russia as thousands take to the streets demanding the release of jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Riot police shutting down parts of the capital Moscow, closing metro stations and blocking off streets. More than 5,000 people have been arrested during the mass protests. The demonstrators showing their support for Mr. Navalny, who was jailed when he returned to Russia after recovering from an assassination attempt. Here's the BBC's Steve
How did they
Rosenberg
try and
just
kill
why
him
some
this
viewers
time?
may find images in his report confronting.
By law, Russians have the right to peaceful protest. On paper. In Moscow today, police were determined to clear the streets. Whatever it took. Hundreds of people were detained in the Russian capital. Protesters had come out in support of Alexei Navalny, the Kremlin critic, who's in jail.
Moscow police had warned that any protest in the city today would be considered illegal and broken up, and that's exactly what's happening right now. The message is that the authorities are determined to crack down on dissent.
But the crowds swelled and moved through the city.
It wouldn't surprise me if this guy got into power that he'd be any different from Putin.
The riot police tried to stop them, but they were playing catch-up all afternoon. Mr. Navalny's arrest was the trigger for this, but resentment with the authorities has been building.
We've been stagnating for like 20 years of Putin's rule.
I wanted freedom for our country. The situation now is the worst, I think, in the last 10 years.
This too brought Russians onto the streets. Alexei
I
Navalny's
remember
recent
seeing
video
that, and
alleging
Putin simply goes, it doesn't belong to me and it doesn't belong to any of my family, which is probably quite true. It's probably, who knows who it belongs to, maybe the state, but it's silly. Who cares?
The result, the toilet brush has become the symbol of this protest. What many here believe is massive corruption at the top.
I have heard that Putin is a massive kleptocrat and he's stolen about 88 billion.
To the Urals and the Russian Far East.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
And Mr. Navalny's release. No sign of that.
To America, where his impeachment trial may be just over.
White lives matter.
President Donald Trump has been forced to find a new legal team. His lawyers quit over the weekend. BBC's Rachel Scott explains.
I wouldn't be surprised if he
Tonight, with
deliberately
just over a week until his
Deliberately
second
did
impeachment
what?
trial, former
Well,
President Donald Trump
just
now has a
got
brand new
these
legal
people
team
and said,
after
right
all
now,
5 of his
quit.
lawyers left.
Yeah,
Sources
because
say
it
they
just
resigned in
makes-
part over strategy and Trump's desire to
It
argue the baseless claim the election was stolen.
We will never give up.
It
We
works
will
from
never
two
concede.
ways. A,
Republicans
it
already
makes it
fought
look
to
like
delay the
his
trial
team's
by 2
unprepared,
weeks to
so
give Trump
they
more time to prepare.
will have
Democrats
postponed
agree,
the trial.
seeing it as an opportunity
And
to try to
second,
plow
it
forward
actually
President
puts
Biden's
them in the
agenda.
news.
And tonight they
So they
say they
should just
are
go
ready to
with
move
the trial
forward
anyway.
on President Joe Biden's massive $1.9 trillion
I was just hoping that when he was gone, that I'd never have to see his face again. It's just disturbing to the continual shit.
With a smaller price tag of $600 billion.
And my hope is the president will meet with us and we'll be able to work out something that is bipartisan.
There is common ground. Both sides willing to spend $160 billion on vaccine development and distribution. Today, Biden's top economic advisor says they will review that counter-proposal.
We're certainly open to input from anyone where we can find a constructive idea to make this package as effective as possible. But the president is uncompromising when it comes to the speed that we need to act at to address this crisis.
However, the vaccination campaign in New York City has had to be put on hold. All 20 vaccine sites have been shut down as the East Coast braces for a big snowstorm. Schools have also been closed in the city.
This is why I think it's better having a lockdown in summer than in winter. In winter, it's more likely that you get flus and colds anyway.
Couldn't be vaccinated. Plus, it's been 40 years since this controversial sporting moment.
Somebody's upset.
Time to let the underarm go. Jeremy's, I'm sure, going to have an opinion on this. On 7 Chat, you haven't managed to open any of the Chapel Brothers for your lunchbox challenge, Jeremy.
Sadly, they weren't answering their phones today, Simon, but with school starting, we do put 2 parents on our team to the test to find out who can create the best lunchbox. Plus, stealing dogs in broad daylight. What can pet owners do to keep their fur babies safe?
And competing for love, Laura takes the Bachelorette's boyfriends out for a test drive. That's coming up at 7.
Do you think it's actually a bit gross having these shows like The Bachelorette and whatever? Because having relationships are supposed to be private. Why? And you're making money out of it. You're making money out of love, and when it should be just private between the 2 people involved. It's quite gross.
How are you going to have a mature relationship? I mean, and frankly, if someone turned around and said, oh, okay, I'll go out with you, but now I'll go out with somebody else tomorrow night, and then another person another night, I'll say, okay, yeah, you can go out with them. Goodbye.
Ta-ta now.
Now on at Curtin Studio, get 20 to 40% off ready-made shears, 20 to 40% off ready-made lined curtains, plus 20%.
Well, obviously, I think it's very lax morality. God knows what type of valueless judgment label you'd give it.
Get endless data for just $40 on our small pay monthly mobile plan. It's data that never runs out.
I could give you 2 reasons.
This year we were searching for something not far away from home.
S&M.
From our daily routine. What we found was an amazing place. Space to have fun and privacy. Time to recharge our batteries. The moments that make New Zealand.
Find more than you're searching for. Trivago. Combination offers from the leading brands worldwide and find the right deal for you. Hotel, holiday home, family time. Trivago. Whoever you are, themarket.com is for you. Even if you're a gaming, air-frying, fragrance, speedy, nautical, hygienic, punctual Harry Potter fan. Or you're just peckish. With over 2 million products, find whatever floats your boat on themarket.com.
Don't you tell me that I'm crazy. Don't you say that I'm losing my mind. If I'm acting a little strange, it's 'cause there's something new in my life.
Oh, guess what's going on? It's, the love season, Valentine's. So everybody has to make a big fuss about Valentine's.
With Pandora Jewelry.
Sorry, what?
It's Valentine's, so everybody has to go mad over love and Valentine's this and Valentine's. You'd better get me something nice for Valentine's, or I'll be really upset.
Only $3.99. Now's good. Go Harvey Norman and see the experts in BYOD. There are a number of factors that make a device ideal for learning and studying. Our friendly staff can help you choose the right device. We have Chromebooks from only $3.38. Step up to our great range of Windows devices. Looking for more functions and features? This tough and durable Acer Travel Mate with touchscreen and stylus will suit your needs. Get BYOD ready. Shop with confidence at Harvey Norman. For a limited time, the Jeep 0% finance offer is available across the Jeep range. Pay 1/3 now, 1/3 in 12 months, and the final third in 24 months. Adventure awaits you. See your participating Jeep dealer today.
It's Valentine's Fashion Central Summer Super Sale with over 75,000 items now up to 50% off. It's time to make summer savings in store or online now at Valentine's Fashion Central.
Pretty big boy, isn't he? So we're going to shackle him because he punched one in, didn't he? So he's assaulted a paramedic, but we still need to care for him. This is the job that we do.
Paramedics, Tuesday on 1.
No, Lionel, welcome back. The well-being of students was front of mind for teachers this week as children head back to school. Irregular attendance is another concern, both issues heightened by the pandemic, as Mayherick reports.
A familiar, jam-packed routine for the Harris family. You've got your sandwich. A bit rusty given it's 6 weeks since the last school morning rush.
I can't remember what I did last year. So last year was definitely a strange year in terms of we didn't feel like we had teachers for very long and everything was a bit strange.
As they send their children off, hoping for a much smoother ride.
What do you reckon, Brendan? Should we go get in the car?
Schools open any time between now and next Monday.
The kids are pretty upset, so it's good to get rid of them as well. Kids are trying to
It's always exciting to have the children back after a week or two of, winding back into the year.
But there's concern over the children who are not coming to school. Some students missing more than 10 weeks of classes last year.
Principals say irregular attendance often points to a problem at home, COVID-19 exacerbating that, not only causing anxiety but financial hardship for families, including job losses.
We try and have a
Have you
positive
noticed that
relationship
the
with all our
sound is out of
families here,
sync
so we're
with the
just in
TV?
constant communication. We have some questions about the challenges that families are confronting at the moment, and we know that many families may have moved over summer seeking employment. So there's a really important job for us to be tracking young people as they return.
While attendance rates were low over terms 2 and 3 last year, it did pick up in the last term.
It remains a very big challenge, and we need to get the messaging across to all of our parents and caregivers and all of our whānau that every day matters.
It'll take a few weeks to gauge how many children haven't returned, but for those back today, a lot to look forward to in the new school year. Play here on One News.
The 100-year-old World War II veteran who raised millions of dollars in the battle against COVID now has the virus himself. Captain Sir Tom Moore has been hospitalised near London after needing help with his breathing. Thomas Mead has more.
It was a moment that inspired so many during the horrors of lockdown last year. British Captain Tom Moore lapping his garden 100 times before his 100th birthday and raising more than $60 million for the health service in the process.
Happy birthday to you.
And after doing so much for others, he's now in need of some help himself. His daughter confirming that Captain Tom was on medication for pneumonia, which prevents him from taking the vaccine, and is tested positive for COVID-19. Adding he needed additional help with his breathing and is being treated in a ward, although he is not in ICU. Support quickly pouring in online. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, one of many wishing the captain a full recovery. He's sure to have well wishes in high places elsewhere too. He was, after all, knighted by the Queen last year.
Never ever did I imagine that I should get so close to the Queen and have such a kind message from her.
And his last birthday saw 140,000 cards delivered from around the world, surprising even his family.
I've lived with him all my life. He's made us think you can be whatever you can be.
Of course, the World War II veteran knows how to put up a fight. So, from all of us, hang in there, Sir Tom.
I would think, unfortunately, that he's met his match.
Time to sport now. 40 years since that infamous underarm.
I can't understand why, how we fought it and then we're keeping
side you're on. It was appalling cricket. We won't celebrate it, but we will.
Well, he might have been a bit lax.
We went to
just
find out
the
that
total
final
way that
ball
England's
could have ended
managing
the
it.
war
They just
so differently.
did it.
Plus, how did she do it? The run that launched Zoe Sadowski-Synnott through the big air barrier yet again.
And the stunner of the day across most of the country. Wellington right now sitting on 18 degrees. Dunedin also.
Well, they should get out and go for a walk.
Actually, the funny thing is, I was reading an article yesterday that was about Vermont State in the US. Apparently it's got a really, really low incidence of COVID.